So, how are CEOs around the world thinking about their growth prospects? We do a CEO survey. A few thousand CEOs globally told us they are significantly confident about their growth prospects. If you look at the industries that are really, really bullish, private equity, real estate's an interesting one. But asset and wealth management, over 50% are confident or in terms of their growth for revenue. So even with the terrible things that are happening in the world in Ukraine, even with commodity prices increasing, with rising inflation and interest rates, there's confidence by and large from the business community. However, there's a significant amount of risks. In that same CEO survey, the biggest risk they identified, they actually filled in this survey in October, it got published in January this year. The biggest risk they worry about is obviously the pandemic and health risks, cyber, which has just kind of got accelerated now, especially for US organizations, but also the volatility, climate lower, geopolitical. Obviously, we couldn't foresee the invasion of Ukraine, but there are some risks on the horizon that they have to deal with. Somebody asked me a question in the board session this morning. They said, how are we actually measuring factors like productivity and well-being when we think about the work today? What this chart really highlights is, whilst many, many businesses are taking stakeholder capitalism much more seriously and have a balanced set of measures, they're talking about financial outcomes, they're talking about customer outcomes, kind of segue to the previous panel on customer experience. They're talking about employee engagement metrics being measured at the business level. Very few of those have actually put those into executive goals. So we're talking about this, we're measuring this, but are we holding people accountable? For me, that was an interesting piece. It'd be good to kind of get some dialogue around that topic from the panel as well. If we look at the US, we did a survey in January of 800 business leaders across all different sectors, executives across front office, back office, etc. In that survey, the number one driver of 2022 growth was people. And it was about attracting and retaining. We've all heard of the Great Resignation or the reshuffle or the reassessment, but that is number one and it's real. It is driving growth. It is also the biggest risk to those growth prospects. The ability to retain your talent and attract your talent is the biggest risk. There are a number of other risks, obviously, as well, but the biggest risk is people. So what does that actually mean in terms of how you compete in today's talent markets? Basically, many firms are looking at using whatever levers are possible. Obviously, flexibility about how you work and offering remote work options. Thinking about, can we offer people development, whether it's development around technical skills? Who doesn't want to learn more about information security, especially if you're a young person in the workplace? It's a really hot market now for cyber, but also leadership skills. We need to lead and manage people in very different ways now, in a very much more inclusive way, in a very much personalized way, and there are different sets of skills. So firms have to offer many, many different levers. It's not just about compensation. It's about how we work. It's about leadership. It's about skills. It's about culture. In financial services, talent is a massive, massive challenge. We all know about the attractiveness of the industry. The industry is not as attractive as fintech or technology, or to some degree, some of the consumer-facing brands. And so when we look at the data around what keeps the executives up at night, the talent acquisition and retention challenges are bigger in financial services than the rest of the industries. And again, that was an interesting data point. So what does that mean? What do people now need to do on a very short-term basis? They need to really focus on purpose and leadership. So we asked the question to say, across all of these areas, what are these business executives doing around the Great Resignation? The first thing they're focusing on is that leader-employee or manager-employee relationship. Because when we started working, the same adage of you join a firm and you leave a manager was true. We believe it's actually true now. And those links between manager and employee through the pandemic have been broken for many organizations because of workloads, because of proximity, as in we're not physically connected anymore, and just that people are reassessing kind of what they want from a job and what they want from a work environment. So that's really important to understand that kind of on a short-term basis, focusing on leadership, focusing on culture, and understanding your purpose and what does it mean? What does it mean to work at your investment firm or your wealth management shop or your large financial institution? And people want to align their purpose, their personal purpose, with their work purpose, and they want meaningful work, especially for the newer generation. We are in a 24/7 news cycle. Brands matter, reputation matters, and so that's a really important focus in the short term. And people want choice. People want to, where the work can be done remote, they want to be treated like adults. They want to have flexibility in how and where they work. It has to make sense from a business model perspective. You're in client-facing roles and your clients want to see you. But our data is telling us right now, some form of hybrid is being offered by many organizations. Again, it's different if you're trading on the trading floor or if you need access to proprietary data or there's significant risks in terms of information security and your role needs to be in person. And then finally, where does it all go in the long term? So short term, we're focusing on how do we attract and retain. We're focusing on flexibility. We're really trying to manage the employer-employee relationship because the power now is more to the worker. But over the long period of time, the investments in workforce, whether that's let's invest in a leadership development program to lead in a different way, or let's double down on automating work so that people can actually not have to reconcile spreadsheets. They can use better visualization tools or customer relationship tools and actually focus on human interactions or developing offerings and innovation and all of the things that we've talked about for years in terms of get technology to do what technology is best at doing, and let's focus kind of the human experience and the human skills on what actually drives innovation and growth. That's what firms are needing to do in the longer term. Again, to bring it back to they're doing it because they want to attract and retain talent, and that workforce contract, that social contract you have with your workers, has changed post-COVID. So I've teed up